Hi folks, Wooden Boat Dan here. Just wanted to give you a heads up. The podcast you're about to listen to was recorded several years ago, so some of the phone numbers, email addresses, website links, and time-sensitive information are no longer valid. Please keep that in mind as you listen. If you'd like to contact me, my email address is woodenboatdan@gmail.com. Thank you and enjoy the podcast. Good afternoon, good morning, and good evening from Dan at hookedonwoodenboats.com. You have tuned in to episode number 160. This is the world's first podcast fully dedicated to celebrating the art, craft, history, tradition, and romance of wooden vessels around the globe. Thanks for joining me today, folks. Good to have you on board the good ship Hooked on Wooden Boats. I am recording this on Thursday, February 12th, 2015. Wow, it's Lincoln's birthday today. Monday's a holiday, so I'm actually off Monday, and that's good. Anyway, welcome to the podcast. We've got some fun stuff planned today. Today's featured segment is an interview with Michael Durland of Deer Harbor Boatworks on Orcas Island in the San Juan Islands of Washington State, so stick around for that. And today's podcast sponsor is Duckworks Boat Building Supply. Duckworks is an online business out of Harper, Texas that sells everything related to boats and boat building and small boats and sails and rudders and hardware and anchors and epoxy and fiberglass and screws and books and, plans. And they've got it all, folks. They've got great prices. And it's a family-owned business, which is really cool. I like to support small businesses myself. Chuck and Sandra Lineweber own the business, and they're great people. So I would encourage you to check out their site and buy some stuff. Best way to get there, or easiest way, is go to hookedonwoodenboats.com/duck. And if you would like to, Chuck wanted me to highlight the rudder parts that they sell, the pintles and gudgeons. And to get directly to that page, go to hookedonwoodenboats.com/rudder. And thanks for checking it out, and tell them Wooden Boat Dan sent you. Okay, this week I did a little bit with my Scamp. I think I talked last week about I marked out the holes in the bulkheads that I want to enlarge inside the boat. They're just round holes right now. I'm going to make them trapezoidal shape. So I marked those out. Then I had an idea. You know what? Instead of trying to cut all the curves on the corners, which there's four to five corners on these shapes, I had this brainstorm that I could take my hole saw, actually take a hole saw bit, put it on my drill, and make nice round corners using my hole saw bit. And so I did that. I used a bit that was probably an inch in diameter, and I drilled that on each of the corners, so I have a nice radius corner that goes into my straight line on the edge of my cutout. So I drilled partway through the plywood and then came at it from the other side, centered the bit, put it in the hole, and it worked out really good. So I got that done this week on the boat. And the other thing I did is I actually got the boat off the trailer. I had it on the trailer in the garage. It was a little too high off the ground, and the trailer was in the way. So my son Mark helped me lift the boat off the trailer, and I've just got it sitting on a tarp on the floor right now. But I think I'm going to build a little dolly for it that'll bring it up maybe 12 to 8 inches off the ground, put it on rollers so that I can roll the boat outside to work on it on nice days, because I love working outside. In fact, when I cut the holes, the radius holes in the bulkheads, I had rolled the boat outside, and the daylight is so bright, and I can see so well. I don't have to wear my glasses or anything. It's just nice to be out there. Plus the fact that, sawdust tends to blow away. It's just nice to be outside when the weather's decent, folks. And so I'm going to have that option. So I think I'm going to build a little dolly for it. I'm trying to keep it simple. I don't want to spend a bunch of time doing that when I could be working on the boat. I did receive a few emails this week in response to my request for asking for folks to interview on future podcasts, and I appreciate you sending those in. I can't possibly get to all of them, but I will get to some of them, and don't let that discourage you. If you have an idea for somebody you'd like me to interview, please send the information to me, and an email address or a website address would be very helpful. I try to do things through email. It just, generally speaking, works a lot simpler when I'm getting up an interview set up for phone. So thanks for giving me your input on that. I appreciate it. I would encourage you to go to my homepage and check out a few things for sale there. Besides the button there where you can click on Duckworks Boat Building Supply, I've got my ebook for sale there, How to Get in the Wooden Boat Game, A Guide for Building Your First Boat, a book by Russell Brown about using epoxy safely and efficiently, and some other resources, so check that out when you get a chance. Also, if you do make purchases on Amazon, if you go through my link first, the products cost you the same, and I get paid a small commission. And that link is hookedonwoodenboats.com/Amazon. So thanks in advance for doing that. Some of you folks have done that in the past, and I really appreciate it. We are going to move on to the interview with Michael Durland of Deer Harbor Boatworks. Michael helped organize the Wooden Boat Society of the San Juans in the year 2001, has been involved in that since then. He's had a boatyard there for, I think, 20 plus years, works on a lot of wooden boats, some glass boats, has some great stories. We had a lot of fun chatting, so I hope you enjoy this interview with Michael. Let's roll the tape. Okay, it's January 7th, 2015. I am on the phone with Michael Durland of Deer Harbor Boatworks. Michael, welcome to the podcast today.
Thank you for having me here.
Yeah, so Michael and I just hooked up yesterday. I wanted to do some interviews for the podcast, and thought, I need to talk to some local folks here, and I found Michael's number, and he was gracious enough to hook up with me today by phone. Michael, let's start with a brief personal biography of you, kind of where you're from and what you did growing up.
Okay, well, I was born in South Dakota, which is a long way from the coast, but we had a river on the property, so we were in the water quite a bit. And then I moved to Idaho during the high school, college years, and spent some time on lakes, and wanted to get to a bigger section of water, so I moved out to Seattle with a friend in '74 and started working for Cecil Lang and Sons Boat Builders. And that's where I learned how to build boats.
Was that in Seattle or Port Townsend?
It was in Everett. He started out in Everett, and a friend and I bought one of his hulls and started working on it full-time, and then we started working for Cecil part-time, and pretty soon we were working for Cecil full-time and on the boat part-time, and when he moved to Port Townsend, we moved over with him.
I see. Where was his shop in Everett?
It was on the slough, just where you can see it from Highway 2 as you go across the slough.
Oh, is that where Nexus Marine is now?
I'm not sure. It was just on the left down there.
Mm-hmm.
He had a boathouse, on the water he was building boats, building a wooden boat in the shop. His son was, David, large wooden power boat, a Monk design. And so he just, had a railway, rolled it right into the water. So.
Yeah, I think that's where David Roberts is. Because I've been to that spot. So when you were a kid, what kind of boats were you messing around with, Michael?
Oh, just little rowboats, and a canoe. We had a canoe, and so we would go up on the lakes and rivers in Idaho in a canoe and rowboats, and then little outboards. I worked for the resort there, so we rented out little outboard, aluminum boats with outboards for zipping around the lake. So,
yeah.
And then I actually went to the first couple of years of college back east, and we had a sailing team. That's where I first started sailing, in Connecticut.
Oh, really? And that was with the college team?
Well, I spent a couple of years at the U.S. Coast Guard Academy, and we had Luder's 44 yachts, little yawls, 44-foot yawls. That we had 4 of them, and I was on the sailing team. We sailed a lot in Long Island Sound.
That must have been a good sailing experience.
That was, yeah. We sailed in the river every night, and then had regattas in the Sound on some weekends. So yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Was that kind of like Puget Sound, where you can get pretty hairy conditions at certain times of the year?
Yes, not quite as. I don't think quite as bad as Puget Sound, though. It's a lot more protected.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
They don't get the winds right off the water as like Puget Sound does, and so.
Yeah. Okay. So, so you went to work for Cecil in Everett first. So how did you get interested in boat building to begin with? What was it about that kind of lit your fire, so to speak?
Well, a friend and I wanted to build a boat and sail around the world. It was that time of, West Sail the World, and Ingrid's were big, and kit boats, and we found Cecil and decided that was he had his Cape George 36 was a good sized boat, and a good sailing boat, and so we bought one of his hulls and started working on it with the plan of finishing it and sailing off to the South Pacific.
Really? So did you end up doing that, Michael?
No, not with that boat. I've never been to the South Pacific yet. We sailed down the coast with one of the boats that we'd built, and we sailed also to Hawaii with Cecil's boat with Cecil at one point. But then we sold our boat and went our separate ways. I
see. Okay. Well, so what kind of boats was Cecil building? Is he building fiberglass and wood, or?
He built a fiberglass hull.
Mm-hmm.
Then everything else was wood. We put a shear clamp in for the deck beams, and we put some bulkheads in with glass them in along the hull, and then everything else was wood. So I really learned my wooden boat building from Cecil. Wood decks, wood cabins, solid wood cabin sides, and wooden cabin top beams, and plywood decks, and teak decks. We did a lot of teak decks on the boat, so learned how to do teak decks and steam wood and bend wood and fit all the pieces. And so we basically did the whole thing. Once the hull was sitting there with a clamp, a shear clamp, and bulkheads, everything else was just like building a wooden boat.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah. So how many years did you work for Cecil?
Probably just about 3 years.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then I moved up to Orcas Island. I had a friend who bought an Eric Jr., a 25-foot. It was another fiberglass hull, and I finished it for him, and then I stayed on Orcas Island.
Okay, and so you opened up Deer Harbor Boatworks?
Well, I moved to Orcas in '77, and then in '86 I bought a piece of property. It used to be an old sawmill. It was on the water. It's a tidal area, so it wasn't that popular as a vacation home or as a big estate, and so I bought it and started a boatyard. Got a permit to put a boatyard in with a dock and a concrete ramp. I use a hydraulic trailer to haul boats out, and that's when I started working on. We started with Deer Harbor Boatworks.
Oh, okay. Okay. So getting a permit to do that today would be a little bit different, wouldn't it?
It'd be really tough today. Back then it was fairly straightforward, and it still took me a year to get the permits for it. But
wow.
Today there'd be no way you could get a permit for it in this location. So.
Yeah, yeah. So you've been there since '77. That's so Deer Harbor. For folks that have never been there, give us a little description of that, would you, Michael?
Well, Deer Harbor is on the southwest side of Orcas Island. It's a nice little harbor. It has two marinas. One is a local marina, long-term moorage only on the west side of the bay. On the east side of the bay, there's a Deer Harbor Marina, which has a fuel dock, and it has a lot of transient moorage. In the summertime, a lot of bareboat charters come up here, and it's just quite a stop in the circuit in the San Juan Islands.
Yeah. And you get some pretty big yachts up there in the summer?
We don't maybe get as many as Friday Harbor does, but we get some good-sized ones that anchor out. A lot of the schooners come up here. Adventurous comes, it's a regular stop for Adventurous, and Martha's, they're good friends, and they come up here quite often, and so we get some nice boats, and also a lot of people that come back year after year. And I'm a little ways away from the marina. I'm way at the head of the bay, so people can bring a dinghy down or they walk down. So I get a lot of people who walk down every year and poke around the boatyard.
Mm-hmm. What kind of boats are you working on these days in your shop, Michael?
Well, we just launched yesterday a New England lobster boat, a 28-foot, really nice boat, Port Orford cedar, planked. It just was in for some the yearly maintenance and some painting and just a few minor repairs. But then I've got an interior job on a carver, fiberglass hull carver. We're doing some interior work on it. So we get everything here. We get from outboard motors to diesel engines to gas to people that hit rocks out in the bay in the summertime and need some quick repairs, and a number of wooden boat repairs too. I try and cater to the wooden boat people up here, and we do planking and keel repairs and basically anything that comes along we end up doing. So. And
you've got a rail right into the water there, huh?
I have a concrete ramp.
Okay.
So I use the hydraulic trailer I use has rubber tires, so I lower it down with a cable, and then I can move it around the yard with a forklift or a truck. And so I store boats for the winter. So I have a number of boats, customers that store the boats every winter here. In the summer they keep them on a mooring out in front of their property, and in the wintertime they go someplace warm and put the boat in the yard here.
Cool. So what are some of your favorite wooden boats over the years, Michael? Well,
right now I've got a couple boats. I've got more than a couple, but I've got a couple that I like. I've got a converted fishing boat. It was built in 1933. It's 32 feet long. It's got a pilot house, interior steering station, and it does have masts and sails for it, but we use them as steadying sails mostly. And that's a good boat to get around in. A diesel stove works really good in the wintertime. And then I have an older 6-meter and an older International One design that I'm still working on. So the 6-meter is a great boat to get out and play on. It's built in 32. It was built by Paul and Cornelius Shields back on the East Coast in 34. So it's got some good history to it, and it's a really fun boat.
What? So 6 meters. So what's the length on a boat like that?
The 6 meter is a formula like the 12 meters that used to race the American Cups, and they range about 37 feet. None of the 6 meters are the same design. They're all a little bit different. But they're mostly about 37, 38 feet long.
Mm-hmm. Is that a sloop rig boat, or? It's
a fractional rig.
Okay.
A 3/4 rig, and it doesn't have any cabin on it. It's got a standing cockpit. They race with a crew of 5, and they just stand up in the cockpit. So the helmsman might have a little seat, but everybody else is just standing up there. Deck is at a little over waist level there, chest level. So it's just like sailing a big dinghy.
Really?
Yeah.
Now, a crew of 5 for a 37-foot boat sounds like a lot. That must mean
you've got a helmsman and then a main main trimmer and a tactician, say, and then 3 to a 4-deck guy, and then 2 to handle lines. So you stay busy when the wind's blowing and you're doing sail changes or sail maneuvers. You stay busy.
Mm-hmm. Is that a Carvel plank boat or?
It is. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I got it. I bought it from a fellow in Iowa, and he'd bought it from a fellow in New York. It'd been on the same cradle for 20 years in backyards when I bought it, and so the backbone was still really good on it. I didn't change anything didn't have to repair the keel or the stem, but it needed a lot of frames, a lot of floors, and a number of planks and a new deck to it. But it was quite a rebuild. But it's just a lot of fun to sail. It's got the old mast. It's got jumper struts and 3 spreaders and jumper struts. So there's a lot of rigging up high. The new ones are toned down quite a bit, just with 1 spreader and two stays on a side. So, but it's quite a classic.
Yeah, you keep her in the water most of the time, or?
In the summertime, we have a couple races up here that we sponsor or help sponsor. There one in May, and then one in September. So that's usually the season. We put it in early May and haul it out in September, October, when the weather starts to get bad. So,
what are the 2 races that you sponsor?
My partner Kat and I started a wooden boat rendezvous in 2001, and we sponsored a race in September, and then in May we ended up with a nonprofit wooden boat society, and that society has started a race in May also. So it's 2 wooden boat races, and we get about 6, 8, 10 boats for the May race, and then we get about 16, 18 boats for the rendezvous race in September. So that's a bigger race, bigger function. So,
do some of the schooners come over from Port Townsend for that?
The schooners have come into Deer Harbor. They have a schooner trip, and they were coming here about every year for 3 or 4 years, and then the border crossings just got too complicated for them. So because they would start out in the U.S. and go to Canada, and just to get everybody cleared. So then they started having 1 year they'd sail in the U.S. waters, and some years they'd just go to Canada and meet up in Canada and sail in those waters. So about every other year now we see a number of schooners that come through here. But during the rendezvous we usually get 2 or 3. Martha, when she's around, and Barlovento used to come, and another couple smaller schooners would show up. So.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So you and Kat started the Wooden Boat Society there, is that right?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we started out in 2001, and we thought, well, it'd be nice to have some place for the boats, or something for the boaters to do between the Victoria Wooden Boat Festival and the Port Townsend Festival. So right after Labor Day on Tuesday and Wednesday, we thought, well, we'd have a little get-together here and a barbecue. And first year we started in July and put the word out. We ended up with about 40 boats that showed up. And we had a great time. We had a salmon barbecue and a little race. And then when we were saying goodbye, they said, well, we'll see you next year. So we we thought we'd better put another one on. And so last year was the 13th one. And, after a couple of years, we formed a nonprofit, and we were on the board, and I'm still on the nonprofit board, but last year was the first year that it kind of ran itself, and we didn't have to put so much effort into it. But we have a great time. We get about 40, 50 boats, wooden boats in the harbor, and we have a barbecue at the boatyard. We serve about 200 meals, good salmon barbecue from some local folks on Lopez. and some music. So it's a great event.
Is
We get
that
a lot of people come back every year. So
is that start on Labor Day?
it's Tuesday.
Okay, day after.
Right. So Victoria has their Wooden Boat Festival Labor Day, and then Monday they try and get rid of the boats. Monday's their last day. They get the boats out. So we have. We started having a race on Wednesday. In the last few years, we've moved it up to Tuesday. So a lot of the boats will come here, and then they'll go back to Port Townsend. So we gave them a little extra time. So Monday night, usually the boats come in, and Tuesday we have a breakfast for the skippers, and then the race, and then the barbecue Tuesday evening, and with the race results. Wednesday we end up with a little dinghy race. And then a lot of the boats will go down to Port Townsend. They'll stay over Wednesday night at Mile Bay on Lopez, and then make the crossing of the Straits. So it works out pretty good for them. We have a number of boats from Port Townsend that come up every year, so it's a lot of fun to see friends from Port Townsend.
Yeah, wow, that sounds like a lot of fun. So if you don't come up by boat, Michael, where can you stay there on the island?
Well, there's a number of bed and breakfasts. There's also some opportunities to camp out. Just give us a call at the boatyard, and we can usually find some place for you to stay, give you some suggestions, or find a place to camp. So.
Yeah, I would love to come up there this year and check it out. It'd be a lot of fun. I go to Port Townsend every year for their festival, but I've never been to Victoria, never been to yours. So it sounds like it'd be a blast.
Well, it's pretty low key. The Victoria and Port Townsend, there's a lot of tourists and a lot of people that come up to look at the boats and get on the boats, and here it's basically just a place for the boaters to kind of relax and hang out if they go to the two festivals, or just some of them have told us that they don't go to the big festivals anymore. They get enough by just coming to ours and just relax and meet some friends, and because the other festivals are way too big for them. So
yeah.
So we're glad to have the people. We see a number of them every year, and so it's a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And there's usually, if you don't have a boat and you want to go racing, there's usually some opportunities to crew on a boat. So it's always good for people to get out on a boat if they want to.
Yeah, yeah. They take an inexperienced crew also, Michael?
Some of them will take anybody.
Even if you don't know what a sheet is or a tiller or anything like that.
Well, there's always a few sailors that are really into racing, and they, it's a pretty low key race, but there's other ones that just go out there and sail around, and they have a lot of fun. So
yeah. Yeah.
You get any race, you get both kinds. So.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So the phone number at the shop is at the 360-376-4056?
Correct.
Yeah. So that's the number to call to get more information. And that's called what is that? That's called the Wooden Boat Rendezvous?
It's the Wooden Boat Rendezvous, the Deer Harbor Wooden Boat Rendezvous. And the nonprofit is the Wooden Boat Society of the San Juans. And
you don't have to spell rendezvous to come to the rendezvous, I hope.
No, you don't.
I was writing
we usually sell shirts with the logo on it, so you can know how to spell it then if you get a shirt. So.
Yeah. Wow. So I bet Deer Harbor and Orcas Island, have they changed a lot since you moved there in 1977?
They have. Yeah, they've changed a lot. I've been told that it's being more gentrified. My boatyard it's kind of right in the middle of Deer Harbor and along the highway, and some people don't like to go by and see a boatyard drive by, and other ones are just love it, but get all kinds. There's a lot of the property values went way up, and you start getting a different kind of people that moved up here. But there's still a lot of great folks, but it has changed a lot. A little more populated and bigger houses.
The last time I was there by boat was probably 1969 or 1970. We would take our family boat on 2-week cruises in the San Juans, and that was one of our stops. Lovely place. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's changed a lot. The marinas have gotten bigger. Excuse me. Gotten bigger and more boats and bigger boats also, and not so many. When gas prices went up, I noticed that there were not so many, family type boats that people would just park their boat in their backyard in the fall, and in the spring they just go out, driving around in their boat. But gas prices kind of shut a lot of that down. But
yeah. Now, is there kind of a main resort there on the island, Michael?
Well, in Deer Harbor we have the Deer Harbor Marina, and the resort. There's a resort above it,
which is a hotel and restaurant and all that.
Well, it doesn't have a restaurant anymore. It's been closed for a few years.
Okay.
But there's a couple other restaurants in Deer Harbor. The Deer Harbor Inn, right up above the hill. And a number of bed and breakfasts in Deer Harbor. And then the main resort on the island is Rosario. It's up in East Sound.
Oh, okay, that's the one I was thinking of.
Yep. Mm-hmm. And there's several, like West Beach Resort and North Beach Resort. Some of the really older resorts with small cabins and right on the beach. So there's a number of places to stay on the island.
And Mount Constitution is on Orcas Island, right?
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Moran State Park and Mount Constitution, yep.
What is the elevation of that pretty? That's like 4,000 or 5,000 feet, or?
No, it's only about 2,500 square
2,500,
feet.
okay.
2,500 feet. And it's the tallest mountain in the San Juans.
Yeah. So and you can hike to the top of that and get a pretty spectacular view, if I remember right.
Yes, it does.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, and I've been told you can mountain bike there now, too.
You can, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Do you do any of that?
No, I don't.
Okay.
No.
All right.
No, I biked a lot in years past, but I don't get out much on the roads. You have to be really careful on the roads in islands here. There's a lot of construction traffic in the summer, and there's still some logging trucks. So you have to. I mean, we try and make way for the bicyclists, but some people don't. You have to watch out for them. So.
Yeah. Michael, give us a little personal plug for your boat shop.
Well, I'm just a small outfit. I've had up to 3 and 4 and 5 employees at a time, but lately, last few years, I've just cut back. I have a good friend who works part time in the summer, and then I handle the rest of it. So I try and get a lot of do a lot of wooden boat repairs, maintenance and repairs, but like I said before, we do almost anything. I know how to fiberglass. I don't put the word out there too much, but I learned to build boats on fiberglass boats, so I do a lot of repairs there. But engine work, get a lot of service calls in the summertime, but mostly I'd rather work on a wooden boat. They have more character, and so that's. And we've done pretty much everything on wooden boats. I've built a few, and then replanking or repairs to their keel or keel bolts or deck work or pretty much anything that needs done, we can handle it.
Mm-hmm. Ah, very cool. Well, I appreciate you being on the podcast today, Michael, and I wish you the best there with your operation, and maybe I'll be able to make it up there this year. That would be fun.
Yeah, I hope to see you at the rendezvous, or even in May if you want to come up in May for our little race. But So yeah, keep in touch, and hopefully we'll see you at least for the rendezvous. It's a great event. Yeah,
very good. And so we'll stop the podcast here, but we'll stay on the phone here for just a minute. So thanks again for being on the podcast.
Oh, you're welcome.
Okay. Michael, thanks so much for participating in the Hooked on Wooden Boats journey, episode 160. I like that number, 160. It feels like I'm getting close to 200. I guess technically that's 40 weeks away, but 40 weeks is going to come. That'll be later this year. 40 weeks is 10 months? Yeah, that'll be like in December November, December, probably December. So anyway, thanks again, Michael. Okay, if you'd like to connect with me, you can do so by email, woodenboatdan@gmail.com. You can find me on YouTube, Pinterest, YouTube, Facebook, and let's see, did I miss one? It seems Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, and Pinterest. That's the 4. I'm not super active there, but there is some information. I always enjoy hearing from my listeners about what boats you're building or thinking about building, or what you're dreaming about, or how you've done a project with one of your kids, or how you got out on a boat or you got inspired. And I've been able to make some good connections lately. I had a gentleman email me and say, hey, actually it was a lady, I forget, maybe she's from California, I don't know, but she'd listened to a podcast of, and I can't remember his name now. Oh my goodness, there's so many names going through my head. Anyway, the gentleman that I interviewed had an older sailboat that he had a quite an interesting history. And this lady, it turns out, her dad had owned that boat when she was young, I think on Lake Michigan. And so she wanted this other guy's information to connect with him and give him more history about the boat. And so she did that, which is really awesome. She got a hold of him. I gave him the contact information. And she said, hey, we used to own that boat. And she kind of gave him a history and stuff. So that's pretty sweet. And I get emails all the time from people saying, hey, can you help me research my boat? Or do you know anybody that repairs boats in my area? Or what do you know about this? Or what do you know about that? And what's kind of cool is that usually if I don't have the answer, which I don't always have it by any means, I've got a resource that I can send you to get answers for those types of questions. So please ask if you have questions, you're wanting to connect or get some information about something. I can probably help you do that, and I'm glad to do that. So shoot me an email, woodenboatdan@gmail.com. Okay, that's it for this week, folks. I'm glad you tuned in. Come back next week for a new episode of Hooked on Wooden Boats, episode 161. Have a great week. Keep the bright side up and the barnacled side down. God bless. Wooden Boat Dan over and out. Talk next week. Bye-bye.